managing devices and workflow in your classroom. And to me, that's kind of easier to teach to high schools, seeing as how the BYOD initiative is starting this year, because they're kind of green and fresh, right? So middle school, I kind of had to tweak it a little bit. So if you are a very high technology user and you're like, okay, why am I here? Well, then maybe you can gather some other ideas that I've incorporated with movement and adding music and a theme to your lessons. I think bringing kids in with hooks, and if you've read Teach Like a Pirate, he talks about all of that. Have any of you read that book?
Learn Like a Pirate.
Learn Like a Pirate, you have? He was also at our latest convention conference in Fargo, and so we got to meet him, and he was outstanding, amazing. And so I kind of use a couple of my own activities for movement, and I take a couple of his. So hopefully you'll walk away. My goal is you walk away with one or two things that you can implement today. So what scares you about using technology in your classroom? I want you to think about that first of all. I'm sure there's a load of answers for that. I want you now, here's your movement piece, keep this in mind, you got a post-it note, they're cheap, right? They serve many functions. You can match kids with them, you can create conversation with them, and in a moment I'm going to gather information and have you post it for an activity in a moment. So it's multi-purpose, I like that. So talk to someone with the same color post-it note as you and talk about questions and concerns you have. So that means levántense, Spanish get up, walk around, and meet and match your colors. It was Spanish.
You use technology to do art still?
To look up mostly images. And that can be scary because sometimes you're trying to art stuff.
Oh gosh, yeah. That would be a concern.
Where some things come up that probably shouldn't.
I'm from the papers, I just watch it.
Oh, okay.
They're always
And then my other answer is I always it's art.
That's my biggest stressor, if you can't monitor. I have not been enough to block that out. But
Look at that.
The big rule is you should always start with the word.
yeah,
I don't like we do a unit and then also we're going to do an iMovie at the end. The unit just for the sake of doing an iMovie.
Right.
It should be
while they're working,
And I have
found out after a short time they were emailing somebody else.
I mean, they were
doing their thing.
unit and so slowly you start getting ready. This is the unit.
First thing
Used to be behind everybody. I thought it was kind of wrong reading. So it's like
Fridays we have some free time. Not Monday.
I also think there's this thing that sometimes it's okay to do and kids sometimes get so much of it. But I like when I can figure out technology.
Fight a lot. That's what I was thinking.
Real
With what?
Give me a set the expectations for the kids with and they get used to
All
that
right,
style.
return to your spots. Nice work, by the way. You were on task. I could hear it. I like that. All right, so here's the other focus and purpose for your post-it note. I want you to use your post-it note and write your technology question or concern on it. Come up and put it on the board. If you see someone else's questions or comments that are similar to yours, I want you to put them in that general area. Okay? Anyone need clarification on that?
I just brought technology.
Yeah,
He was
this is
under-
hard work. Let me tell you, my last class was a lot more difficult. I had 2 people.
Oh,
2.
no.
So this activity was hard, but hey, you only need 2 people to have a party. So
That's true.
we did party. It's okay to be first, Mark.
I was gonna say first or the surgery.
True. Oh, you are so kind.
Isn't he? They're
Yeah.
so nice to me over there.
It's up to you. And that's completely up to you.
They pick up my
Vicky
mail.
only has one dose every.
Over here?
Wherever. You create the stage. Yep. And you're setting the trend, so we'll see what happens.
There you go, sir, thank you.
See if it matches anything.
Probably not.
If
I
can
stole
read
it from someone.
Might not be able to read that.
You uniquely borrowed it. Yes, right?
Leave it, made it your own.
Yeah, I'm a terrible time master. All right, so once again, when you're coming up, you're obviously making connections with other students, right, and other peers in your class, so there's a win. Okay, you're forcing them kind of to read what other people have written. The other thing is you could make a Venn diagram, okay, and do a comparison so that the post-it notes either fit on one side or the other, or in the middle they have a connection, and that can be used in any class. Does anyone have an idea of how they might use this in their classroom? Post-it notes, sharing info, content.
I like it for questions like this. I mean, visually, we glance up there and obviously everybody's got the same concerns, so it can give you a good temperature.
Sure,
What
we're kind of all on the same
they're
page,
saying.
sure. You can see if there's an outlier, right? Okay. All right, so how do I integrate technology throughout a unit rather than at the end? Okay, student learning starts with the learning and not the technology. Very good point. Very good point. When I worked with Darren King, and he said that there were levels of technology use, and I hope I get them right now. I don't want to let them down. When you first start off and you're pretty green, and I wanted to make sure that my teachers that I was working with using the one-to-one were not threatened, that they were confident, that I really wanted them to believe in what we were doing. So I made sure we started off small. And that's where Darren King said was kind of, you win with that, because you're having teachers use technology, right? They're using it, okay? Then the second step, he said step 2, would be teachers teaching with it. Okay, you're actually teaching with it. Anyone want to guess what the third step is?
Kids
Kids
using it.
teaching it? I don't know.
Teaching through it. You teach through technology, right? So whether you're bringing someone into Skype and they're your the audience is here, or maybe you use your project-based learning and everything is online and you're bringing in resources, it's teaching through it on a daily. You're kind of breathing with it. You can't live without it. It kind of rings true with Joel's comment up on the board in the lecture bowl about the teacher who's just devastated right now. I don't even know that they're using it or with it. They are going down to pencil, paper, right, which is none of the above, level 1, 2, or 3. And that I can't even imagine going backwards at this point. Safety concerns, balance of old and new. Can I get more on that one?
Oh, that was mine, sorry.
That's okay.
Just for me, like for art, I want to be able to use some technology, but I also want to be able to balance, hand a pencil on paper.
And that's important.
And there's, it's, because they need to have, in art, look at movies and video games and
Yep, a great
commercials
resource.
and everything, so digital everything, but at the same time, you need to have that. And so it's just, I'm trying to find a balance, but not too much of one and not enough of another.
That is completely true. I mean, think about a teacher who uses packets and books all day long, right? And then think of a teacher who uses the Chromebook or device, whatever it is, all day long. You're right, a balance is extremely healthy. It's also important for a student when they travel from teacher to teacher to teacher to have a balance. Imagine a student, my own, I can't envision my child all day long being in front of a screen. That's not healthy for anyone. It's not. And it's not healthy for my child to go to a class where they're paper, pencil, packet all day long, because that's not the real world. It's not. So finding a healthy balance, Brian, that's a really good point. And that's that struggle for some teachers, because I think once the devices came, everyone thought they had to be completely just great at it, using it all the time, and they felt guilty, kind of, okay, put them away. And if I walked in, like, well, we just used them. Oh, you know, we just had them out a second ago. Okay, you're good. Like, I believe you, and you're the teacher, you're doing a great job. How to keep kids on task. Any ideas?
The flipping, make sure you can see all the screens.
Yeah, that's a great way. Like right now, this is sorry, whose room is beautiful. I love it here, but it's not very conducive to technology usage. I use Pat Merritt all the time because she's the one who kind of brought this to our attention, but her room was set up exactly like this. I love, kind of reminds me of like Star Trek, right? Kind of like a Spock action. But when kids are working on their Chromebooks, all I see are the backs of your screens, and kids are savvy, you know, they click out of things, whatever. Well, she's pretty smart, and she's ahead of the game. She's like, okay, the lesson is over and now it's time to work. And the kids picked up their desks and turned around. Every kid turned around, so she was able to see the backs of all of their screens. It was like, I'm like, okay, that was amazing. And not only was it beneficial for her, she got her kids moving, right? I mean, a little bit of exercise, not a whole lot. Now, in this situation, you definitely could pull all of the desks forward and do your lurking from behind, right? And be in and out, but your kids need to know that you're gonna hold them accountable and that you care. You're gonna come and check out what they're doing and ask questions. You should not be just sitting at your desk the whole time. You know, that's when troubles arise. And how do you make connections with kids if you're sitting at your desk? You can make a connection just by walking up and, that's awesome. Good job. It's that easy. I mean, fake it, okay? Fake it, but it will come, okay? Keeping students on task. That's another one. And I was going to share, the best way I find is to completely keep them on their toes and chunk my time. I chunk my time. So it might be a 15-minute group or activity for this. And when I see kids are maybe off task or it's gonna come, I switch gears and now, oh, we're going to be doing this. Okay, chunk your time, and then you end with your final activity. But kids know that there's a change coming. Okay, they kind of get antsy-pantsy for that. There really is no time for them to be off task because they're trying to adjust to the new activity and they're hearing what the new directions are. All right, so chunking your time is extremely important. And keep in mind that chunking could involve one of your chunks is technology use. Okay, we're gonna do today's meet right now. You use today's meet. Okay, we're done with that activity. And I'm sure all of you do that anyway, but if you make a conscious effort of chunking, they don't have time to be off task. And if you're referring to other tabs open, was that maybe what you were referring to?
That's what I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
clarify if I'm ever.
Yeah, no, that's okay. They are so quick at tackling, like I walk around, you know how my class is set up,
Mhm.
you know, so they all face so I can see them.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute I bend down to help a student, I have 6 other kids toggling on something else, you know, the minute my back is even, and then I look up and they toggle quickly and you can kind of see it, but you can't, and they have like 10 tabs open.
Well, before I start, I always make sure, I'm like, you are on task with me. This is our time. I will give you time to go to options and opportunities and choices. I will give that to you, but you will lose it if you're not with me during my time. So if you're respectful to me, I will be respectful to you and give you that time. I promise. Now, if I find a kid who is off task, I'm pretty stickler about it. I mean, I do close their Chromebook and I take it. I'll give them a warning. Okay, but then I take it and then we have a conversation afterwards and say, you know what, you're here to work, this is your job, like we need to work on this. In the real world, I think you get a pink slip. Maybe I should just hand some out. Right, have a
Sticky notes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Sticky notes.
multi-purpose. I'll go grab the one on the board, right? And then use it again. Email, Twitter, Facebook. Is Facebook open in school, Joel?
Nope.
No? Twitter is, right? The other thing is modeling good behavior, and Joel, you're here, so we can talk about that, but this just came to my mind right now. Let's just say that a student